Don't show your face at Dad's party. You're not family anymore, my mom said with a smile. So I stayed away. But when the doors opened, and I walked in with someone none of them ever expected, you should have seen their faces. They called me nothing. But the truth? I became everything they were never ready for. Have you ever been shut out by the people you love? Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Don't forget to like this video if you believe in second chances and true worth. Hi, I'm Lena, and this is the story of how my mom kicked me out of the family, only to come knocking on my door when everything changed. The text came in just before sunset. Mom, don't come. It's better for everyone. You're not family anymore. No, hello. No, hope you're okay. Just a message as cold as the wind scraping across my apartment window. I stared at the phone, fingers frozen above the screen. Dad's 60th birthday. A milestone he had been planning for months. I still remembered the way his eyes lit up when he first talked about it. I want everyone there. All my children. All the people I love. But I guess love had conditions now. My heart pounded. I stood in the hallway of my tiny apartment, still wearing my bakery apron, hands dusted with flour. Rent was 2 weeks overdue. I hadn't even been able to buy him a gift. And now I wasn't invited. The betrayal didn't hurt as much as the quiet behind it. No fight. No conversation. Just silence. And a door slammed without even being opened. Across the city, the lights of the family estate began to flicker on. The old house I used to call home was now just a landmark in my memories, and apparently, not mine to enter anymore. I leaned against the counter, trying not to cry. Then my phone buzzed again. A different name this time. Are you okay? It was Eli. I hadn't heard from him in years. We used to be close, childhood friends, neighbors, late-night confidants. Then he moved to New York, vanished into the world of big money and quiet power. And now he was texting me? Out of nowhere? Me been better. Just found out I'm banned from my own dad's party. Eli, where are you? Me home. Alone. Why? Eli, don't move. I'm coming. 10 minutes later, I was staring out the window when I saw headlights stop outside my building. Not just a car, a sleek, silent luxury vehicle that didn't belong in this dusty part of town. The kind you only saw in magazines. The door opened and out stepped Eli. Same hazel eyes. Same calm smile. But everything else had changed. He was wearing a tailored black suit, shoes that probably cost more than my rent, and a confidence that made the cold air melt. I opened the door slowly. What are you doing here? He looked at me like I was a stranger, and then smiled gently. I'm here to take you where you belong. I shook my head. Eli, I told you. I'm not welcome. Then we'll walk in like we own the place, he said, shrugging. And trust me, by the end of the night, they'll realize who you really are. My breath caught. Eli, this isn't a movie. This is my family. You don't understand. He stepped closer, voice low but firm. I do. Because I've seen you cry when no one noticed. I saw them break you down, call you names behind your back, and act like your kindness was weakness. He paused. You always deserved better, Lena. I didn't know what gave me the strength to nod. But I did. An hour later, I was standing outside the estate again, not as the outcast daughter, but next to a man who saw me, really saw me. As we walked toward the ballroom doors, laughter floated out. My sister's voice. My mom's fake laugh. The same sound she used to cover discomfort. Then the music paused. The crowd turned. And when those massive doors opened, revealing me in my plain black dress and Eli by my side, arm linked with mine, the room went silent. Not a word. Not a breath. And then, Mom's wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the marble floor. There was a sound after the glass shattered. Not from anyone inside the room, but from Eli. He chuckled softly, just under his breath, like none of it surprised him. Me? My hands were trembling. Every eye in that gold-trimmed ballroom was fixed on me. On us. Dozens of familiar faces stared, as if I'd grown horns. My uncle froze mid-toast. My cousin's mouth hung open, fork suspended in midair. And right in the center, Beneath a grand chandelier that sparkled like something out of a royal palace, stood my mom. Her expression? A perfect mix of shock, confusion, and something else that looked a lot like fear. She stepped forward slowly, her voice icy.
Lena.
What are you doing here? I swallowed hard. But Eli didn't even flinch. He gave her a courteous nod. Hello, Mrs. Carter. Mom blinked, confused. Do I know you? You used to, he said simply, eyes calm. Before your daughter mattered to me. Gasps spread through the room like a wave. My sister, Felicity, suddenly appeared by my mother's side. She was in full performance mode, in her sparkling lavender gown and perfect curls. Of course, she looked flawless.
She always did.
Lena, she said with a voice dipped in sugar. This is really not the time. You weren't even invited. I know, I replied quietly. That was clear. Eli stepped forward. But she is family, right? Silence. No one answered. He glanced around, voice louder now. Because unless this party is being held by a different father, I believe your invitation list left out someone he wanted here. Still silence. Then Dad stepped out from the crowd. He looked older. I hadn't seen him in nearly a year, and he looked like he'd aged 10. Gray in his beard. Tired eyes. But still, that gentle sadness that lived behind his gaze. He walked slowly until he stood in front of me. Lena, he said, barely above a whisper. I didn't know they told you not to come. I looked at him for a long moment, searching for truth. They said I wasn't family anymore, I whispered. His face twisted in pain. I never said that. I didn't speak. I didn't trust myself to. Eli placed a hand on my back, steady, warm, grounding. Dad turned to look at my mother. Did you tell her that? She stiffened. I was protecting her. From what? He asked sharply. From me. The room grew quieter than before. My mom's lips tightened. You know what she's been doing? Working at some bakery. Barely surviving. She's made her choices, and we had to make ours. Dad's eyes narrowed. Her choices, he echoed. He turned to me again, his voice breaking. Is it true? You've been struggling. I nodded slowly.
Yeah.
But I'm okay now. Eli stepped forward again. More than okay, he said. Everyone turned to him. I've watched Lena for years. She built something with her own hands. She's not just surviving, she's growing. She's helping people. She never asked for anything from any of you. And still, she never turned bitter. He paused. You should be proud of her. The weight of his words hung in the air. My mom folded her arms. And who exactly are you to tell us that? Eli smiled gently. Someone who learned a long time ago not to measure worth by social invites. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded letter. What's that? Mom asked suspiciously. He handed it to my dad. I bought the bakery building last week, Eli said. And the properties around it. Lena didn't know. I'm gifting them to her.
She owns it now.
No more struggling. The entire room gasped. Felicity dropped her champagne glass. And my dad looked at me with wide, teary eyes. You own a business now? I could barely nod. It's more than just pastries, I whispered. It's mine. People were murmuring now. The same cousins who once called me a nobody now whispered to their spouses. Then something unexpected happened. My mom's face crumbled, not in rage, but something closer to regret. Her voice cracked. I thought you were lost. I stared at her. Maybe I was. But I found my way. Without any of you. She opened her mouth. Closed it again. Her hands trembled. But Eli, standing beside me, leaned in and whispered, That's enough for tonight. I nodded. He extended his arm again. And together, we turned to leave. But just before we reached the doors, someone shouted, Wait! It was Dad. He ran forward. And for the first time in years, he hugged me.
Tight.
Like he was afraid to let go. Dad's arms didn't loosen. For the first time in forever, I felt small again. Not weak, just seen. Like I was that little girl who used to sit on his shoulders during family barbecues. The girl he used to tuck in every night with a smile. Lena, he whispered into my hair, I'm sorry.
His voice cracked.
I should have asked. I should have checked in. He pulled back just enough to look at me, eyes red. I didn't know your mother said that to you. I didn't know they froze you out. I never would have let it happen. I wanted to believe him, and a part of me did. But the pain was still there, wedged between us like an invisible wall. I needed you, I said quietly. And you were gone. He nodded. I know. And I'll live with that. But I don't want to lose you forever. Behind him, I saw Mom standing completely still. Felicity whispered something to her, but Mom didn't move. Not a blink. Not a breath. Just stillness, like her world had cracked. Eli turned toward me, gently touching my wrist. "Want to go?" But before I could answer, Dad spoke again. Can we talk?" "Not here," I said. "I know. Tomorrow?" I hesitated, then nodded. Eli and I left, not in shame or anger, but in calm power. We didn't slam any doors. We didn't raise our voices. We just walked out together. Later that night, in Eli's penthouse apartment, I sat on his balcony with a mug of mint tea. The view was ridiculous. The whole city stretched out beneath us like a glowing map. "I didn't expect that," I said finally. "Which part?" he asked. I smiled faintly. "All of it."
You.
Showing up.
Speaking for me.
The gift. He leaned on the railing beside me. "You gave me a reason." I turned to him. "Why me?" He shrugged. "Because you never asked for anything. Not even when life was unfair." I blinked. That's a pretty rare reason to fall for someone. Eli's eyes widened slightly. Fall. The air between us shifted. Neither of us said anything for a moment. "I just meant," I started, flustered. He smiled.
No.
"I know what you meant." And for the first time in a long time, I let myself laugh. The next morning, I met Dad at a quiet diner downtown. The same one we used to go to after my school recitals. He was already seated at a corner booth, nursing a coffee he hadn't touched.
He stood when he saw me.
"Lena." "Hi." We sat down. He was quiet for a moment, then reached into his coat pocket. He pulled out a letter. My name was on it, in my grandmother's handwriting. I froze. "Where did you get that?" I asked. "Mom left it for you," he said. "But your mother never gave it to you." "I found it last month, hidden in her old jewelry box." I took the letter in trembling hands and opened it. "My sweet Lena, if you're reading this, I'm probably no longer here. But I need you to know something. I always saw your heart, your kindness, your quiet strength. And I've left something behind for you, not money, but something more valuable. The bakery, the land, they're yours. I've made sure of it legally. Don't let anyone tell you you're not enough. You are everything I ever hoped for in a granddaughter. Love always, Grandma Evelyn." I pressed the letter to my chest. Dad was crying silently. "I didn't know she left that for you," he said. "I would have made sure you got it. I swear." "She always believed in me," I whispered. He nodded. "And I failed you. I let your mother run the show. I let pride get in the way of being your dad." "I don't need a perfect dad," I said. "Just an honest one." He reached across the table, taking my hand. "I'll be that, if you'll let me." I nodded slowly. Maybe some things couldn't be undone, but maybe they could be rebuilt. Later that day, I returned to my little apartment and found a surprise on my doorstep. A bouquet of lilies. My favorite. With a note. "You were never beneath them. They were never above you." I smiled. Maybe this was the start of something new. Not a revenge arc. Not a comeback. Just a quiet rise. And maybe that was enough. I didn't expect to see her there. But when I walked into the bakery that next morning, sleep still clinging to my eyes, apron over my arm, the smell of cinnamon and rising dough already thick in the air, my mother was sitting at the corner table. Alone. No makeup. No jewelry. Just her. She looked up the second the bell above the door jingled, like she'd been rehearsing the moment all night. I stopped in my tracks. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something. But she didn't.
So I did.
"You want something to eat?" She blinked. You still make the lemon scones? Every Tuesday. I'll have one, she said quietly. I didn't move. Is that all? She nodded. For now. I walked behind the counter slowly, hands slightly shaking, not from fear, but from weight. The weight of what wasn't said. I plated her a scone and poured a coffee. She liked it with 2 sugars and a tiny bit of cream. I remembered that, even if she might have forgotten I ever paid attention. I brought it to her table and placed it down. She didn't look up, just stared at the steam curling from the cup. I used to dream about this place, she said after a moment. When your grandmother first talked about it. Yeah, I said. She dreamed about a lot of things. I thought she'd leave it to me. I raised an eyebrow. Of course you did. She looked up. That's not fair. Neither was what you did to me. Silence. She took a slow sip, then set the cup down gently. I know. There was a long pause before she finally looked me in the eyes. You were always different, Lena. Always softer. You didn't fight back like Felicity. You didn't chase power or attention. I thought you'd crumble. I stared at her. And you thought that justified shutting me out? I thought you'd need to learn the hard way. That life doesn't reward softness. Maybe not, I said. But it punishes cruelty. She winced. I wasn't trying to be cruel. Then what were you trying to be? She didn't have an answer. I sat down across from her. For the first time since she sent me that message, you're not family anymore, we were eye to eye. Do you even realize what that text did to me? I asked. She swallowed. I said it because I was scared. Of what? She took a shaky breath. Of watching you fail. Of having to watch you live a hard life and not being able to fix it. But I wasn't failing. I was fighting. She nodded slowly. I know that now. The bakery stayed quiet, except for the slow hum of the oven. My mother looked around the room like she was seeing it for the first time. It smells like Evelyn, she said. Like Sundays. I said nothing. She loved you, I whispered. She left it all to me because she saw something in me that you didn't. She closed her eyes. I see it now. That doesn't make up for anything, I said. I know, she said, her voice barely a whisper. But I'm here. And I'm proud. That word. It hit harder than I expected. I stood up slowly. I have work to do. I know, she said, rising too. But can I come again? I didn't say yes. But I didn't say no either. She left quietly, shoulders less rigid than when she arrived. And when the door closed behind her, I finally breathed. It wasn't a full apology. But sometimes you can hear regret in what isn't said. That afternoon, Eli showed up with paint-stained jeans and a toolbox in hand. What are you doing? I asked, laughing as he bent to inspect the squeaky bakery door. You're a business owner now. You need decent hardware. I crossed my arms. And you're a billionaire with nothing better to do. I like fixing things, he said simply. Especially things that matter to you. Something fluttered in my chest. I ignored it. He stayed all day, tightening, painting, fixing shelves. At one point, he even helped a 5-year-old pick out the most magical cupcake for his sister. He belonged here. Not because of who he was on paper, but because of the way he made everything feel safe. As we locked up that evening, he walked me home. Your mom came by, I said. He raised an eyebrow. And she didn't apologize. But she didn't lie either. She just listened. That's rare, he said. I nodded. She wants to come back into my life. And do you want her there? I thought about it. I don't know, I said honestly. But I want peace. And maybe this is the first step. Eli smiled. You always take the high road, don't you? I looked at him. Doesn't mean it's not steep.
He laughed.
Well, I'll be right beside you on it. Every step. That night, I fell asleep thinking of all the things I once wished for. Approval. Apologies. Belonging.
Now?
I wasn't sure I needed any of them. Because I had something else.
Peace. Growth.
And the quiet strength to say no without guilt, and yes without fear. 2 weeks later, the letter came. Not an email. Not a text. A hand-delivered envelope, sealed with the family crest I hadn't seen in years. It arrived just after I unlocked the bakery, the morning sun stretching across the front windows like golden ribbons. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Carter Foundation Annual Board Seat Invitation. My heart dropped. They were offering me a seat on the board of the Family Foundation, the same foundation I was told years ago I would never be part of. And at the bottom, signed in smooth black ink, was my mother's name. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After all the silence, after the rejection, now they wanted me back? Not as a guest, not as a daughter, but as a name, a seat, a symbol. The bakery smelled like cinnamon and trust. The foundation? It smelled like conditions. I folded the letter and placed it in the drawer. Then I went back to kneading dough, trying to forget how my fingers trembled. That night, I met Eli again on the rooftop of his building. He'd brought dinner, of course. Thai curry, fresh spring rolls, and those ridiculously good sesame pastries I always pretended I didn't love. I handed him the letter. He read it silently, then handed it back. "Well," he said, "that's something." "Yeah," I said. "It's something. What are you thinking?" I sighed, my voice low. "I think it's a test. Or a trap. Or both." "Maybe it's an apology," he offered gently. "Maybe.
But why now?"
Why, after all this time? Eli looked at me for a long moment, his eyes deep and calm. "Because you're shining now, Lena. And even people who ignored the stars start looking up when they realize how bright they are." His words stayed with me. For days, I couldn't focus. The bakery ran fine. Customers came and went. But inside me, everything was spinning. Mom came by again. This time, she didn't order anything. She just sat, folded hands on the table, waiting until I finally approached her. "I assume you saw the invitation," she said quietly. "I did." She nodded. "I wanted it to come from me." "Why now?" I asked directly. Her gaze didn't flinch. "Because we made a mistake. And I know a board seat won't fix it. But I want you involved. I want you to know your name still matters." I shook my head slowly. "My name always mattered. You just didn't think so." She winced. I let the silence stretch. Then finally, "What does Dad think?" "He doesn't know. He told me to give you space. But this was mine to do." I leaned on the counter. "And if I say no?" She blinked. "Then I'll respect it." That night, I found myself walking to Grandma Evelyn's garden. She'd planted it behind the old estate, and I used to run barefoot through it as a kid. Now it was overgrown, untamed, but the roses still bloomed. I stood there alone, beneath the stars, and whispered into the night. "What would you do, Grandma?" And for the first time in weeks, I felt something settle inside me. The answer wasn't in power or revenge. It was in purpose. The next morning, I returned the envelope to the courier, with one line scribbled across the bottom.
"Not now."
Maybe not ever. But thank you for the gesture. Lena. Weeks passed. Mom didn't show up again, but she sent a small card. "I understand. I'll wait. Proud of you anyway." Dad came in one morning and just hugged me without a word. And Eli? He kissed my forehead in front of a full bakery, grinning as the old ladies at table 4 clapped. "You didn't need a board seat," he said. "You've already built something stronger." "What's that?" He smiled. "Yourself." Dove epilogue. 1 year later. The bakery was thriving. What started as a one-woman kitchen now had 3 employees, 2 delivery vans, and a waiting list for custom wedding cakes that stretched into next spring. People didn't call me the quiet daughter anymore. They called me Chef Carter. Sometimes my mother came in just to sit quietly in the corner. Sometimes Felicity dropped by, awkward and unsure, but softer than before. And my dad? He brought fresh eggs every Saturday, like clockwork. Eli and I walked through the old garden one afternoon, hand in hand. "I still don't know if I'll ever sit on that board," I said. He squeezed my fingers. "You don't need a seat at their table." "Why not?" Because you built your own. And just like that, what once felt like exile now felt like freedom. Not everyone needs a revenge story. Some of us just need to rise. Quietly, kindly, powerfully. And when we do, they'll all fall silent. Just like they did the night I walked back in and changed everything.